back, everyone. Thanks for joining the session. My name is Andy Krudge. I lead the product team for the FSx ONTAP service, and it's a pleasure for me to welcome back Nick Howell from NetApp to yet another Storage Day.
Back to back, Andy. Second time, and here talking about FSx again. I heard you say it was a 2-year anniversary.
2-year anniversary.
We were back. So yeah, it has absolutely been a really fun 2 years. So I'm excited to be back here again talking about it. Anything to do with FSx ONTAP, I'm really excited about. So.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, it's been a crazy 2 years, just thinking back to our launch back in 2021. There's a lot of things we've seen in terms of customers using the service, a lot of new capabilities we've launched. Just in the past 2 years, thinking back, we've made some pretty tremendous improvements to the service. We launched, for example, a single easy offering. We doubled improved the price performance by 2x for customers. I've done a number of integrations that customers are leveraging each and every day to simplify how they manage their storage.
Yep.
Whether it's making it easier to deploy HANA, VMware, and most recently, of course, SnapBlock, which we talked about in the previous session.
Yeah, SnapBlock absolutely hit home for me, Andy, because it's something that I even used way back in the late 2000s in public healthcare space. It's one of those that I kind of want to remind people, like, this isn't something we made up last week. Like, this has been a staple part of NetApp data lifecycle as well as data management and archival for decades now. So to be able to bring that forward with the offering in AWS as part of FSx ONTAP, monumental, because for anybody that has to comply with any sort of regulatory compliance, audits, things like that, not to mention the use cases you mentioned earlier about ransomware and any of the other use cases you can use immutable snapshots for. Like, all of that matters when it comes to SnapBlock. So yeah, I'm really excited to see it finally make it into FSx ONTAP. I think we're going to have a lot of big customers that are going to find a lot of use cases for it.
Yeah, no, I mean, really excited to have it. And as you heard in the previous session, Taylor talking about how they're using FSx for disaster recovery.
Right.
It's a really cool kind of peanut butter and jelly of two things where we're seeing customers using FSx as their secondary copy of data, and now they're able to also lock their data with SnapBlock and have not just their secondary copy for disaster recovery, but now you get that extra layer of protection where you can have immutability for your data, kind of protect against even more things than you could before.
Yeah, and I want to call back to one thing he brought up, because you can build SnapBlock into the overall scheme of things. So if you're an existing NetApp customer, all of the things that you're used to, whether it's Mirror, Vault, all of that stuff still works the same way that it would in an on-prem setup. But some of the other advanced things like fan-outs, cascades, all of those configurations still work. You can still do those today. So building all of that stuff in, like he was saying, they were just switched the lanes. They did a track switch from their colo facility over to FSx ONTAP to be able to send those mirrors up to FSx. Beautiful. It was definitely one of the design principles we set out. We wanted people to have that familiarity with it.
Yeah, we want to make it easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And on that note, I mean, we have customers, one of the great things about AWS is we offer regions all around the globe. And so with some of ONTAP's really cool replication, caching capabilities, it's really exciting to see some of the architectures customers are building, cross-country DR and then vaulting to another continent altogether. All that's made possible by a lot of the data management capabilities that ONTAP provides.
Yeah, you said caching, and it triggered a word, FlexCache, one of the other features of ONTAP that we've seen a really big uptick in. FSx ONTAP does support our FlexCache feature. We see that in really high-end, I'll use chip manufacturing, EDA workloads, things like that, people that can take advantage of that. There's a use case there for remote desktops. Anything that you would need to do like large builds and have like pre-staged, pre-cached kind of workloads in place ready for it, like that's where you're going to find and be able to take advantage of that. So if you're doing any of that kind of work, check out FlexCache, because it is supported in FSx ONTAP.
Yep, and it's supported in both directions too. You talked about the EDA, like that use case where you have data on-prem and you want to burst to the cloud and have a cache in the cloud, and you can use FSx as the cache. We're also seeing, and we actually had Vanguard up on stage last reInvent talking about how they've done this, customers moving their primary copy over to FSx, but deploying an ONTAP system on-prem, configuring that as the cache. And now you get the best of both worlds. You get fully managed, highly resilient data in the cloud, and you also get low latency access for some of those on-prem applications that need that level of performance.
Yeah, one of the simplest use cases I've seen people use is whether it's the cloud or on-prem, but doing development on one side and production on the other. And you can do that in the cloud or on-prem, just mix and match. But yeah, that's another use case for it. If you're doing lots of multiple builds, of nightly builds of different applications that you have, to be able to deploy those as containers or builds of applications, like that's another use case where FlexCache and having an ONTAP system with seemingly infinite resources at your disposal is a huge way to take advantage of some of that stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, the possibilities are endless. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So tell me a bit more about what's been going on your side. Some of the things that NetApp's been doing with FSX. Really exciting developments as well.
Yeah, a lot of our work has gone into making sure that our new sort of universal control plane around BlueXP is fully integrated. FSX is a big part of that. A lot of our work around I know the Ansible guys, shout out to you folks, have been really working on making sure that it's available there. We've also got our Kubernetes CSI provider that is available for container work. Called Trident, free and open source, available on GitHub. So a lot of that work has been, since it launched over the last 2 years, we've really been working on making sure all of the other auxiliaries that kind of orbit ONTAP are up to date, support it, integrated, and all of that stuff across the board. And that's an ongoing effort. Like, we're still working on, there's so much more to do, but the real nuts and bolts of everything are in place at this point.
That's really exciting. Yeah, and that's been one of the exciting things about working on this product is we talk to AWS native customers all the time who are using the console and CloudFormation and the AWS APIs to manage their storage, and it's kind of an introduction of ONTAP into that ecosystem. At the same time, because FSX supports both all of those tools as well as NetApp native tools.
Yeah.
There's also customers who can now take existing tools, existing scripts, leverage that, but use it with fully managed storage, and it just works. And so customers that you don't need to choose one or the other. You can use any combination that you want of the two.
Yeah, and I love the ability for different teams to have different comfort levels and certifications and tooling and things like that. So your storage administration team that's been using NetApp for 10 years doesn't they don't have to go get AWS certified all of a sudden. You don't have to turn over the team to have all these cloud architects all of a sudden just because you're doing that. They can continue to use the tools that they've been using over time. Some of the more advanced stuff, whether it's infrastructure as code, to be able to do some of their automation work. And like you said, on the AWS side, there's definitely a set of tooling on that can then orchestrate. CloudFormation is a great example I always like to use. If you have an AWS cloud architect, they can use CloudFormation to orchestrate the stand-up of different FSX ONTAP instances across regions, and much, much more just using some simple YAML. So as long as you've got that the VPC setup stuff in place, it works flawlessly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's cool to see the level of automation you can do with CloudFormation, Terraform, all these tools customers have.
Yeah, it's really fun. One other thing I wanted to hit on was I heard Taylor mention it in the last session. They're looking at using VMC a little bit more. The relationship between VMware and NetApp goes back 20 years at this point. We've been working with them side by side. The late 2000s and early 2010s were a really fun time of kind of overhauling the entire industry when it comes to virtualization of all things. To see AWS come in, and now you have NetApp, VMware, AWS, all sort of coalescing and coming together and being able to deliver all of the stuff that the partnership of VMware and NetApp did on-prem, now natively in AWS with VMC and FSX ONTAP. Mwah. It really is a sweet spot that I think a lot of people are going to discover much, much more, that they can just start vMotioning workloads back and forth. SRM integrations with SnapMirror up to FSX ONTAP with VMC. You're going to be able to begin to see all of these pieces start fitting in together. And to tie all that back into what Taylor said before, it is shifting the tracks. A lot of the times you would do this stuff to a colo facility outside of your on-prem environment. And now you're simply just rerouting that to take place to FSX ONTAP, and it's really that simple.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's exciting, whether it's, in VMC or in EC2, this idea of moving your DR to FSX first, and then, all of a sudden you blink and you can run your production workload in the cloud if there were a hurricane coming, for example. And so a lot of customers are going through this one-step, two-step process. And yeah, to your point, it works with VMC just like it does with EC2.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to have to catch up with Taylor afterwards. I'm going to have to see if I can get him on our show. Can I do a couple of quick shameless plugs, if you don't mind?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we have a show called NetApp On Air. It's on the NetApp YouTube channel. Mr. Andy Krudge is going to be a guest on there at some point in the very near future. No promises just yet. We'll figure out the date and get back to you guys. But the latest episode you can go see was with Glenn Sizemore, who is the lead product manager for VMC at VMware. So it's an hour and a half, almost an hour and a half of he and I talking just about VMC and FSX ONTAP. So if you want to hear more about that, you can certainly do that. We do have a very large and thriving Discord community as well. I wanted to give a shout out to everybody watching in Discord. What's up, guys? If you're interested in any of this stuff, we've got tons of architects and end users and practitioners, as well as NetApp staff, engineers, and product managers and all of those folks hang out in our Discord community. So discord.gg/NetApp, or you can just go to netappdiscord.com if you'd like to come join us. But all are welcome. Come on in.
Awesome. Yeah, excited to do the session with you. TBD time, hopefully soon.
Yeah, hopefully, soon TM. We'll do that, right?
Yep.
Well, Andy, this is great. It's, again, happy anniversary to FSx ONTAP. I think the future is very bright for this product, and in fact, the entire FSx portfolio. I think just looking at where it's come from in the last 5 or 6 years, like it's really grown up to be a very big part of AWS that I didn't anticipate when it was first introduced. And to see how it's molding into the ecosystem, I'm really excited about how it's going to continue to build into things natively as more and more customers move to the cloud.
Yeah, it's been an exciting journey.
Yep.
Well, thank you. Great to have you.
Thank you very much, Andy.
Yep.
We'll see you next year.
See ya.